All right, let's take a look at the SolidWorks user interface. When you first open up SolidWorks, you're going to see a welcome dialog box. And what this does is it allows us some options. If I look down here to this bottom left corner, I can look at recent folders that maybe I had a drawing in. I can look in this middle section, recent documents that I worked on. Maybe it was a part, an assembly, or a drawing, and I can click quickly from there. And I can also expand it if I want, or I can create a new part, assembly, or a drawing. So it really doesn't matter what we look at. Let's just click on one of these here. And if we open something up, you can see that this is going to behave like any Windows user interface. And so if you're familiar with that, you're also going to pick this up rather quickly. Up across the top, we have what we call our menu bar. And you'll see we've got pull-down menus. We've got home, save, print, very typical Windows-like commands. Next, in this center section, this is called the command manager, this section in here. And basically when I select a menu here, we can see different commands come up and are active based on what I want to do. It gives a lot of options. Now in the command manager with these options based on what I click, you can find a lot of those in these drop-down menus as well under like sketch tools or sketch entities. Now there's going to be extra ones here, but you can also find the basic ones in here, although I tend to never go there. The other thing is with these menus that give us these different options, if I right-click out into this blank space and I look under my tabs, this is what creates the tabs underneath, and you can see that the ones that I have active, such as features, sketch, and so on, I can add other ones as well that will also give me different options under those tabs. I like to keep mine minimized and just keep the minimal amount of tabs up there that I generally use, and it just keeps it a lot more streamlined and a lot less kind of chaotic and confusing. All right, the next area over here on the left side of the screen, we have our design tree. What this is going to do, we have the title of the name of our document. We have equations, we have material not specified, we have our planes of how we're going to create our different sketches. And then more importantly, or most importantly, we've got these which is the basic history here of how this part was created. And that is the essence of a parametric model, is one piece builds on another. And it's something that we're going to talk about in probably the next video, is design intent on how we want to create a part. Again, I like to keep this minimalized. If I go in here and I just right click and I look at my hide and show tree items, I can look at here and see what is displayed. And if I scroll down to my hide and show tree items, you can see show. Those are automatically going to be listed over here. Automatic, when it says automatic, that means it's going to come up when I've already created something that maybe uses that feature. Otherwise, there's no reason for it to show over there, and it's not going to. And then last, we have hide. Such as sensors or history or graphic, or I'm sorry, not graphic bodies, but like these two, sensors or history. We can show those if we want, or annotations. And again, later on in future lessons, we may come in here and choose to show those on the design tree. But for now, let's click OK. Okay, down here in this lower left corner, we have our reference triad. You can see that move, and there's different planes that this part was created on this part. If I move this part, you can see that reference triad moves along with the part, and we can see how that part is oriented, reference to the planes that it was created on, and it lines up with that axis. And so you can see how that turns around. But that basically gives us an idea of how that part was created and from which planes and which reference points. Next, up here we have our heads up toolbar. What this does is it allows some nice shortcuts to get to reference items that we use quite frequently. All right, if we move down here to the right, we have a status indicator where it says we're editing the part. Here I have simplified interface, and what this does is if we go up here to the top left and I go to view, I go to workspace, and I go to simplified interface, I can shut this off by clicking on that. What it does is it brings me this sidebar now on the right that's viewable, and then down here in the bottom left I also have a couple more options here with model, motion study. If I'm getting into that, it might show a drawing, it might show a couple models if I have open down there. Again, I like to keep things simple while I'm working on them, and then if I need to, I can expand things at a later time. And so I'm going to go back up again here to view, workspace, and I'm going to click on that simplified interface. And what that will do is it keeps everything, it keeps my workspace here nice and simplified. Going back down here to the bottom right, I also have this IPS. That's going to show if I'm in inches, pounds, seconds, which is, you know, pretty much standard in this country. Otherwise, it might be millimeters and seconds down there. So again, it's just whether we're in the imperial system or the metric system, that's where it's going to show. Okay, now to the right side, I do have some options over here. I have a design library, view palette, which are going to be used when we create drawings. I've got appearances, scenes, and decals. Again, I can change my background. I can change the way the part appears. If I want this menu on the side to stay out, I can either go change my simplified interface like I showed you, or this pin here, I can click on this and it's now pinned to my side. And now if I click out here, it stays. Or if I click on that, now when I click out here, it hides. So going back up to this heads up toolbar, what this does is I've got some, like I said before, I've got some commands up here that we can use. It makes our lives easier. If I click on a surface here and I go here, this is normal to, and it's going to just redo that. If I click on a surface and then click normal to, it's going to rotate it, and so what normal means is now I'm facing that surface. A little hard to show you all the surfaces and how that works on a cylindrical project, but I could do the other end as well. Click normal to, and it's going to turn, it's going to face. So you can imagine a part with multiple sides, and I might want to get a view of looking straight on that part. Here I've got select, which is on all the time. Here, depending on how you have your mouse configured, if I click this, it's panning, and so if I hold down my left mouse key, I can move this side to side. I can unclick that. I can rotate the parts again with my mouse key. The way my mouse is configured, and I believe it's a standard configuration, is on my mouse, even when this is not selected, if I hold down my rotary wheel in the middle, I can rotate. So, and that's what I like. And then if I use that wheel, I can roll forward and back, and I can zoom. Otherwise, we can use these keys to zoom, either zoom to fit, or I can use this to zoom on a specific area. This next box is if I want to view a certain side of the part. I can click on a side, and again, it just gives us really quick ways to go in and view a different side of the part. This is going to be a display style, and so maybe I just want the lines of the part, the outline of the part, or the sketch. And again, we've got some different options. This shows hidden lines versus up to a solid, and then or shaded and shaded with edges, which is probably the most common. Now, one thing, and here we have a sectional view, and then here we also have some visibility types that are going to show or hide in the drawing, whether they're hidden lines or sketches or other things. And we can, again, if I click planes here, it will show the planes. It just depends on what we want to see in the drawing. Now, if you look at my display, and I don't know with the newer versions of SolidWorks, if this is the way it comes in, you can kind of see this shadow here, or reflection, I should say, and the reflection on the part. This is as if a light is shining down on, say, the part and on a table. If I don't want to see this, and typically I don't, to me it makes it harder to actually do the work I need to do. I can come here to View, and I can go to Display. Okay, and under Display, if I come down here to Real View Graphics, and you can see this icon is kind of highlighted. If I click on that, now I go to just a shaded body with a plain white background, which is how I like to work. Again, now if I rotate this, there's no shadow or reflection anywhere. There's pluses and minuses. You can see the threads don't look as real as they did before. And, you can certainly switch back and forth. And it would look different if we were to click on this and select a material. Right now it's just the standard default gray, shaded gray. But that gives you options. And one thing I will say is, clearly I'm not covering everything here. Google is your friend, and so is help. Up here we have a help under the question mark, either help or Google or YouTube. There's an awful lot of information on SolidWorks that you can find if you're having a specific problem. Okay, the last couple things we're going to talk about is up here. We will be going into this later, but this is our settings, our system configurations. And what this does is it allows us to configure either the system as a whole or individual or a document. And maybe we don't want to change properties for everything, but this is going to do everything from line weight to displays to hidden lines visible, all different kinds of things. We're going to be able to change tolerances, all different kinds of options this gives us. And so we will be in and out of here. Okay, last, I mentioned the mouse before when we were talking about pan and rotate and stuff. So this will accommodate all different kinds of mice as far as working with SolidWorks. I think the most common is a 3-button mouse, although as people get more deeper into this, they like to use some more customized configurations. And so just real basically, if we left click, that is going to allow us to select on different either commands or parts or lines, whatever. If we right click, this is going to open up a menu and give us additional options. And so it's kind of like a shortcut based on what we select, but we're right clicking. All right, that's just a really quick overview of kind of the SolidWorks interface, and as needed we will dive deeper into certain areas.